Hey everyone, Randy here. It's the return of the Roundtable this episode. We have LP Nevada Chair Charles Melchin, Vice Chair Jeff Hurley joining me and Adam to talk about the Reno reset, Uvalde, inflation, and much more. Before we get to the conversation, I wanted to tell you about the Libertarian Party of Nevada. The Nevada LP wants to preserve and expand what the Founding Fathers called inalienable rights. Remember, the government spies on you, lies to you, steals from you in the form of taxation and inflation, and sends your sons and daughters to the other side of the world to get killed in the service to the empire. The Nevada LP stands for the opposite of that. It wants peace, freedom, self determination, and property rights for all. Meet friendly, like minded people at LP Nevada events, volunteer, run for office, or donate to the Nevada LP and help take a stand for freedom. For more information, go to lpnevada.org. Once again, that's lpnevada.org. Now let's get on to the show. And it's the Battleborn podcast, Roundtable Edition. Today we have the cadre, Charles Melchin, Adam Heyman, and Jeff Hurley. Hey guys, thanks for coming back.
You blew our cover. Now everybody knows who the cadre is.
Blue. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, guys. We're about 3 weeks away from the Reno convention, and I wanted to have you guys on to talk about that amongst other things. So let's talk, because the convention was held in Nevada. You know, Nevada's a swing state, right? So yeah. There's a little bit of importance as far as why the convention was here. Can you talk about? Well, let's talk about your first impressions from the convention. Go ahead, Charles.
It was pretty definitive in terms of like the outcome of the convention itself. You've got the Mises Caucus there, and they did all the things they set out to do. As far as I can tell, am I mistaken on that?
No, it was epic. In fact, Lord of the Rings director is making 3 2-hour movies about the whole thing.
I mean, the first day was a little nightmarish, but
yeah, it was really slow going that first day. We pretty much, the only things that got done on that first day was adopting a credentialing report and adopting an alternate agenda from the default one that's normally how the convention's supposed to proceed. But I think most people in the room, regardless of how they were aligned, like any neutral party could look at the proposed agenda and be like, yeah, we should probably do this, where we elect officers before we like start battling over platforms and bylaw changes. It seems odd that the default agenda that the Libertarian Party, the National Convention, calls for, that order does not make sense to me at all.
Well, the innocent explanation, which I do not believe, would be something like, well, yeah, but it's important, and for various reasons of inter-party squabbling, we never get to bylaws, so let's just get them out of the way first. But right. I firmly believe that if we had not switched out the agenda, they would have literally never gotten to officer elections. And then who knows what the situation is for the next 2 years.
So then if the agenda wasn't changed, because that's what I was aware of, like they were able to change the agenda, what would have happened? Like, I mean, they just play the waiting game, and what happens after that? I mean, as far as like,
I don't know National's bylaws that well, but I assume that they just keep the same officers, wouldn't they?
I don't know, because my understanding is if you don't elect a judicial committee, you don't have a judicial committee for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm not sure if that's true for other LNC positions or not, or if that's unique to the JC. And if the alternate agenda had not been adopted, I don't know what sort of limbo state we would have been in, because before we even got to that point, before we voted on adopting an alternate agenda, we first voted to deny the default agenda, which passed. And so at that point, you just wouldn't have an agenda. So none of us are familiar with the ins and outs. I'm sure someone like Karen Ann Harlos would be able to say like, well, this is how things would proceed. But otherwise, we'd just be a lot like a chicken wandering around with its head cut off. We're just like, we have no idea what's next. We're just going to I don't know, have a pie eating contest next, since we don't have an agenda to guide us. Which probably would have been a step
I
in
would
the right
think
direction.
that you would be able to possibly. I would think you would have to reconvene to handle that business. I don't know. I mean, because then you're technically in violation of the bylaws, right? If you haven't elected new committee members.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know.
Yeah,
we're horrible affiliates.
We're out of our depth when it comes to that level of, but fortunately that didn't come to pass, right? We adopted a new agenda, so the very first thing that happened was we had a chair debate, or yeah, the next thing that happened was we had a chair debate late Friday, and then we walked in on Saturday morning and voted for who the next chair was going to be. And as soon as that vote took place, it was very evident that the room was overwhelmingly behind Angela McCardle and the Mises caucus. And so, yeah, the Todd Hagopian, he overwhelmingly won for treasurer. Karen Ann Harlos soundly won for the secretary. The most interesting vote probably of the entire weekend was that vote for vice chair, where we went to, how many rounds was it? 4 or 5? I think it was 4 rounds that we went to.
The maximum, whatever it was.
It was, and I think that was a spectacular experience for all the Libertarian Party of Nevada members that were present to see how these, what's that style of voting called?
Runoff.
I don't know if it's runoff, but affirmative voting or something. I don't remember exactly, but like you need to hit that 50% mark. So the fact that you had 2 different candidates who got like 35, 32%, and then they get like 40 and 38%, and then they keep on creeping up each round as the lowest vote getter gets dropped.
It's majority versus plurality.
There you go. And ultimately, I think that last round, wasn't it just Joshua Smith versus Noda in that last round?
Yep.
And if Josh hadn't have won, you would have had to redo it all.
Yeah.
With completely new candidates.
And I know of multiple
if Noda wins again, there's just no vice chair, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the executive committee might be able to appoint one, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's probably the default. Yeah.
But is the... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just about to tell you, Randy. You just missed an amazing thing. Some great speakers too.
Yeah, it looked like it. And I was gonna say that, aside from that, because it is 3 or 4 days. I mean, there is stuff aside from just party business. Like I know that did you guys attend any of the? I know there's training and stuff like that.
Yeah, Charles didn't make it, but a number of us did the day of education, which was interesting. Was also pretty funny because there was a guy bringing PBRs into like all the classes, and then I found out that he's a chair of one of our affiliates. But
do you want to? Or maybe you shouldn't say.
Yeah, I don't want to say his name just in case. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. I was like, I didn't know at the time. I was just like, oh, that guy's just drinking beer in the middle of the class, and then like the next day I realized, oh, he's actually chair for this affiliate. Interesting.
A Nevada affiliate?
No, a state affiliate. Yeah.
Okay.
He's the chair for another state, but
yeah. I mean, that's proudly libertarian in a way, I suppose, right?
I was gonna say that.
Well, the affiliate that was sitting right in front of us, we're about a 2 case a day crew.
Well, and we got gifted that case of Coors Light by the Colorado convention.
Yep.
Whoever that came from.
Yeah.
I think some of them were out the night before having tacos, and I think James bought them some drink, so that was kind of like repayment for the night before. But Jeremy Kaufman had one.
Yeah.
I wanted to step back a little bit though, because we were talking about the convention, but at the very beginning of the convention, we spent like 3 hours just on the credentialing report.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which my understanding is that's nothing compared to what they had to contend with in 2020.
Well, yeah.
Because in 2020 was the partially remote convention. And so there was a ton of deliberation over getting the people who are not presently in the room to be able to vote. And it was absurd and ridiculous. And once they finally took forever to get to that vote of should people outside the room be able to vote, then it overwhelmingly passed. Like 75% of the room voted to let people outside of the room participate. It's just you have these 3 or 4 bad actors. I don't even know if they're necessarily bad actors. They're people who like are up their own butts about Roner and the bylaws, and they want to demonstrate to the rest of the room, oh, look at this extremely obscure thing that I think should stand in the way of us doing this entirely reasonably and obvious thing that we all want to do. But because of these words on this page, we can't do it.
Yeah.
And it just, it's gets in the way of progress.
Well, this time the main point of contention is they showed a number of delegates present,
Yeah.
but that was only the total of number of delegates. It didn't necessarily account for alternates that were filling in for delegates, and so then all of our votes and all our numbers would have been off. And I honestly, I don't know if it was they're just that incompetent or it was intentional, a slow walking tactic, but I felt like I was in the twilight zone. I was like, how hard is it to know how many people should be able to vote? And they spent 3 hours just trying to figure it out. And it's like, you have a whole credentialing committee that's supposed to already have this figured out. Like it should have just, everything that slowed it down had nothing to do with different affiliates being challenged, which there was some of that afterwards, but it was just, they presented a number to us that wasn't correct from the get-go.
Yeah, it did seem, it was very frustrating because the answer seemed so obvious. Because okay, the only question is your affiliate. How many votes does it get? Period. Right? Do you have at least that many people present that are either delegates or alternates? If so, excellent. That's your number. If not, then whatever number of delegates or alternates you have that have checked into the convention, that's your number. That's all you need to know for every single state. And yet they took forever. And all that could be done just with the back end. You didn't need state affiliates to come forward and like present their information. The credentialing committee should have known, like, okay, here's the people of Deck 10, here's the states that they're with, here's how many votes that each state gets, and like just boom. It should be like, we are spreadsheet people, but like that's fairly simple spreadsheet that should not have been a challenge, and yet they still spent 2.5, 3 hours arguing.
So it's the classic question, right? Was that
sure?
Was that
incompetence or malice,
or was it incompetence? And for my viewpoint, it didn't look tactical, but that aspect of it, it just looked like something was gumming up their procedures, so they just couldn't get the simplest thing done.
And I guess my ultimate takeaway, ultimately, no harm, no foul. So I'm not too frustrated by that specific episode. Sure. The upside of it is it provides the Mises Caucus with a spectacular opportunity 2 years from now when they're just like, okay, like here's this, go. Yeah. And they just like take care of business, and credentialing only takes 30 to 45 minutes, and then we move on, and then we adopt an agenda, we move on, and we don't end up getting bogged down in this ridiculous stuff that should not be difficult, folks. Like, why on earth should the American people trust us with the government when we can't even like do credentialing in a neat, efficient manner?
Right. No wonder you guys don't like government. You just suck at it.
Right.
Well, 2 years from now, we'll have the opportunity to see what a well-oiled machine looks like when.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. Yeah. It should be interesting.
And every time, yeah,
I was going to say the work that has been done over the past at least 2 or 3 years to get to the point of the convention. You can see that I saw the results immediately. I'll tell you what, I spent a little bit of time watching the stream from, I think it was like Thursday or Friday for that. And you guys, I think it was in the middle of where you were doing might have been credentialing or something. Mm-hmm. Ooh, doesn't make for good video. But,
no, right?
Yeah, but the result of that weekend, people were excited. I could see, there was a lot of positive, even just the tone of the social media changed like pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So that's good.
And it's been great. Like I love that immediately after that convention was over, Michael Malice had Angela McCardle on his podcast. Like I thought it was a spectacular interview, and Michael Malice is just such a great ambassador. Perhaps outside of a small humble brag especially on the part of Adam, but also Jeff, the Tom Woods speech that took place on Friday morning. First off, it was packed. The room was absolutely packed. It was fantastic. I really liked the speech that he gave. I understand that it could be a little polarizing. It was extremely academic. He leaned into what he does extremely well and what only he can do. But like, I think almost exclusively because of Adam, we had the opportunity to sit at the same table as one Dave Smith and Scott Horton for that breakfast, which was just a wonderful, unique opportunity. And so it was just
Wasn't
like,
that great?
what a great foot to start this convention out on. Like, it's all downhill from here. But even if it's just that Tom Woods speech sitting at that table, it's like, well, great weekend. All right, boys, let's go home.
I mean, just the fact that Dave and Scott were delegates from their respective
Yes,
states. That was
spectacular.
Awesome.
Yes.
And Stefan Kinsella too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that you guys would probably still be there talking about foreign policy or whatever, because you guys are so into it. I like that a lot.
Business was necessary just to get Scott to stop informing, like educating us on the Middle East. Yes. Sorry, Scott. We'd love to continue to listen, but we need to go vote.
Now, if as far as like I said, the that brought us to this point where the convention happened, regime change.
Mm-hmm.
Angela McArdle is president.
Chair. Yeah.
Is commandante.
Yeah.
But I like I was saying, just the social media, and I'm excited about to see what happens as far as like the other changes that are in store. Is there anything in particular that you guys are excited about?
I don't know if I'm necessarily excited. It's going to be interesting to see where they go, because it sounds like they're going to make a lot of changes to the organizational structure of the National Party. It seems like there's a lot of positions which potentially, they're questioning, like, why do we even have this position, or is this position a high priority? So I think they're going to also restructure and reprioritize, and that's going to be interesting. I've also heard that they have like a almost like an HR manual, like a procedure and policy manual that's supposed to be pretty overwhelming and restrictive. So I think there might be a lot of modifications made to that as well. So
because of the tremendous amount of turnover that took place in the LNC, it is a phenomenal opportunity for them to sort of step back and ask a whole bunch of whys that the previous team would have just been, the answer to everything would just be like, well, that's the way we've always done it, obviously. So let's just keep on doing it that way. And it's not that they've abandoned all institutional knowledge, especially when you have an individual like Karen Ann Harlos there, who like you can quickly inquire with her and be like, why this thing that is being done seems like a silly thing, but like is there a good reason for it, or what's the explanation for it? She can provide that explanation, but at least most of the members of the LNC aren't tied to this tradition and aren't beholden to thinking that like, well, we don't want to trample tradition, therefore we must maintain this. So I do think that there's a plenty of opportunity for them to make substantial fundamental changes to the bones of the party and get rid of some of the fat that is completely unnecessary in the party. And I hope they take the opportunity.
So too.
Yeah.
And I think the temperament of the new people that come in are such that they won't rip up any fences without knowing what the fences are put there for.
Exactly. Yes.
So it should be very exciting. And I just wonder, I mean, I'm very interested to see how this election cycle, what it looks like after the new change. Messaging is amazing. Give us 2 or 3 more months. I'm very curious to see what happens with the fundraising, because we're going to get access to some really big platforms, and we'll see how many libertarians are actually out there in the country. I think it's a bunch.
Well, that's been the knock, right? The knock against, say, the Mises Caucus has been, we're driving. I shouldn't say we are driving, just because maybe the messaging or it turns people off. But I don't know.
Well, it's true. We will be driving some people away, obviously. Yeah. But the culture is changing drastically. But the payoff is going to be, or the challenge is, are we going to attract more than we repel? because if you're some establishment beltway policy wonk, okay, you're not going to like what we have to say, but good. I mean, what you guys were doing wasn't helping the cause of liberty, and maybe we won't either. But I certainly think it's worth trying something new.
It's that one of those I'm very proud of the enemies I've made sort of thing.
Right.
Well, and I especially that first, like the first 3-4 days of the LP National account, once the keys were turned over to the new team, it was one of those things like, come on guys, like pace yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Like we need to slow down a little bit. It was kind of reminded me of that Archer meme where it's stop, my penis can only get so hard. Yeah. Guys, like slow down, guys.
Well, even before any keys were handed over, Angela tweeted that under new management tweet.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good, some pro-social distancing nonsense from early in 2020. Retweet it, say under new management. You're never going to see any garbage like this again.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think that was the right tone, because if you remember, well, I'm sure you guys remember, it took them like what, a year or something like that to even like talk about COVID, even to tweet I'm talking about LP National.
And when they did, it was in favor broadly. We shouldn't. Nobody should be forced, but we should all do everything they're asking.
You need to do the socially responsible thing and keep your distance.
Completely complying all the time, masking up. Yeah, to hell with your business. I mean, you should shut it down for 2 years just to be responsible.
From the convention, who made a better impression on you, Justin Amash or Spike Cohen?
Spike Cohen.
I'm kidding, Spike.
Spike Cohen, hands down.
Yeah. Did Justin Amash win you over at all, or did you find him divisive, or I don't know? What was your impression from his performance at the convention as a whole?
I thought that he was basically the same thing that I've always known him to be, which is fairly vanilla, except for what he thought must have been really impressive, throwing out those Mises quotes somewhat out of context just to give us a little poke in the eye.
Yes.
And I don't think he was necessarily meaning that as mean-spirited as a lot of us probably took it, but it still wasn't, I don't know, I don't think it was wise.
Yeah, he was trying to make the argument like, oh, look at like your leader, the guy your caucus is named after, wasn't an anarchist by any means.
Well, we never said he was.
Well, was he later in his career? Because my understanding is no,
not at all. But remember, he's speaking in these terms from the viewpoint of the 1920s and 30s, primarily, and in order to get his full view on the proper size and scope of government and what it should consist of, you have to read everything. You can't just take a sentence out of context. You could pull a whole bunch of sentences and say the exact opposite. And, just like reading anything, especially anything over 100 years old, or almost 100 years old.
But I mean, Mises definitely believed that there shouldn't be government intervention into the economy, correct? I mean, that's...
Well, he... For the most part, yes, but he doesn't believe in anarchy, so therefore there must be some intervention, right?
You know what? Screw this Mises guy. Let's start a Rothbard caucus.
Yeah, he has more of a Nevadan tie, right? It was like,
Rothbard,
yeah.
We'd be the place to sound that caucus.
Mises is amazing, but you have to look at it in context.
How cool would that be?
What arguments was he having at the time?
Well, how great would it be for the Overton window within the Libertarian Party to shift from, I don't know, this Mises guy is a little too milquetoast, right?
Oh man.
That's us moving in the right direction, in my opinion.
Well, if you ever got to that point, we'd have already won so hard, we'd probably have drifted away from politics, because who cares? We're fine.
Yeah, speaking of that, I was looking at the official rate of inflation has gone up again. It's now 8 point whatever it is, but we all know that the actual rate of inflation.
Checking my decoder ring, that means it's 2.5x of that number.
Oh, geez.
So what is it now? 20 something?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
it's the shadow stat guys. I think they had it like at 20 something percent, which is they they calculated the way that it used to be calculated back in the I believe it was like the 80s or 90s, and then they started messing around with the inputs or the equations,
Yeah.
and it just gives you a weird, like, very low number compared to where it was before. But yeah, I mean, like, have you guys seen any of that? I was at a car dealership, and and they were saying, and this might have also to do with the supply adjustments the supply chain, but all of the vehicles over there had a dealer markup of or market adjustment of five to $6,000 or $7,000. I went to a couple of dealerships. I think Adam had said to me, or had mentioned to me, that it was like the one that he saw was like 20 or
Well, we
25,000.
just bought a car a couple months ago, and while we paid 2,500 over MSRP, and
Yeah.
felt like we got away with something. The sedan in that dealership that we were looking at was 10,000 market adjustment price over MSRP, and I forget which car it was, some high end thing, had a $25,000 one, and they're getting it because there were no cars on the lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, inflation. Oh my God, Jennifer just had an exchange with some pseudo economist on Twitter who's trying to justify the official numbers, and she's saying, "Are you crazy? Go out and buy something. Go to a supermarket." He's like, "Oh yeah, but you don't understand. It's a basket of goods, and televisions are fairly reasonably priced." I'm like, really? How are luxury jets and yachts? Totally irrelevant things. Are they? Is that what's keeping the CPI down?
What percentage of the average individual's monthly expenses go towards television sets
That's precisely
versus
the argument that Jennifer made.
versus food and housing and energy?
That's why
That's
inflation. The poorer you are, the more insidious inflation is. You just get everything you need the most, food and energy, just goes through the roof.
Yeah, yeah. If you go to the gas station, obviously you'll see what the price of gas is. I think I saw in California it's like $7 already, but here in Nevada, where we're used to like what $2.50 a gallon,
Mhm.
maybe even 4 months ago.
Did you guys see that meme? It was either the circle is now complete or achievement unlocked or something. It was a 7-Eleven gas station where the price was 7-Eleven.
Nailed it.
The thing though that a lot of people don't realize, because you'll see like in the current administration of like, oh, just get an electric car, just oh, what's the big
Sure.
deal,
Sure.
But your average person, a lot of people aren't getting paid a whole lot, and so say you only make a few $100s a week, well, when that gas price doubles, that's actually food out of your mouth. That
Yeah.
might be the difference between your family doing okay and not doing okay. So the fact that they're just willing to willy-nilly just be like, oh, what's the big deal? I mean, that's offensive. I mean,
not to
that means a
mention-
lot to a lot of people.
Not to mention, if you don't happen to live on the coasts where charging stations are just everywhere. I don't live, in the middle of the country, but I got to imagine those things aren't just all over the place, right? I mean, isn't gas stations still predominantly what you find everywhere?
Well, substantially increasing the price of gas for especially the individuals living on the margins makes it incredibly difficult because it limits their employment opportunities. If you need to
Yeah.
commute a fair distance and you need to highly budget for your gas expenses, if you're like, I can only spend $15 a week on gas, a year ago, okay, you could still viably get a job that was 30 miles away. Now you can only afford a job that's within 15 miles of your home because of the price of gas. And so you're having the most vulnerable individuals having their options greatly reduced in very real terms. And it's not something that's acknowledged or recognized, but absolutely inflation. And it's so frustrating hearing these economists, pseudo economists, be like, oh well, it's just greedy corporations. Like it's certainly like, I think for especially the Austrians, right, the evidence is if it's strictly a gas price issue, people are not going to have as much funds to spend on other things. So you're going to see reduced price somewhere else in the market. But because all prices are increasing across the entire economy, that's an indication that it's a money supply issue, not a specific industry issue. It's not gas. It's not cars. It's not housing. It's all of the above, which suggests it's the fucking Fed.
Yeah,
And
it's the
printing the
denominator,
trillions
stupid.
of dollars in the past, whatever, 2 years or,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, it's insane. And I always wonder, because what is the answer to that? You know, like, is the Fed going to try? I mean, or does the money just collapse? I mean,
Well, here's
So I wish that there had been a moment 2-3 years ago near the end of the Trump administration where it was formally acknowledged, hey guys, we are going to actively experiment with modern monetary theory. That is what we're doing. That's what we have been doing for 3 years. Nobody in Washington, D.C. has formally acknowledged that that's what we're doing, but now we're seeing the practical end result of practicing MMT. And so right now they're still pretending that we're not, right? If things had gone well, then they'd be like, see, MMT's working out. But because like everything's burning to the ground, they're just like, I don't know, well, this capitalism thing sure sucks, huh, guys?
That's exactly what I was going to ask you guys. I haven't been paying attention, but 2 years ago, the MMTers were on every platform they could possibly get on, talking
Yep.
about the
Yeah.
virtues of their theory. What are they saying now?
They're non-existent.
It
Yeah.
is scuttled under the
Because if they actually speak what MMT is, people go like, wait, we've been
what?
doing that. That's what we're doing.
So do they
So-
even talk about how they deal with scarcity? Is that even part of their the equation for them? I mean, does scarcity not exist?
No, they say that hyperinflation is the only check on the government's ability to print however much it wants. And then when when inflation starts to rise, they shut up. So
and they blame greedy corporations. They don't blame greedy college administrators who are responsible for some of the quickest rising prices across the economy. No, they're not greedy, but when fuel prices increase, those are greedy, but not colleges for some reason, because
and then what about home prices? I mean, home prices are insane right now.
Mhm.
So I mean, prices are going up all across the board. And then recently, there have been numbers coming out that credit card debt is also been soaring. And so it looks to me, it's like, okay, we're approaching the end of the business cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, go ahead, Adam. What do you
Well,
got?
I'm not an MMT economist, but I took a few semesters. So I say we just wipe off the books all that credit card debt and the student loan debt while we're at it. And I think if we make the leaf the legal tender of the nation, I think we'll be just fine. I mean, I took calculus, so this will all work out.
It's always so weird though, because like this is certainly the second, maybe third time in my lifetime where you look at the world, or at least the American economy, and you're like, well, we're in the end game now, and like really can't wait for this post-collapse apocalypse that we're all going to be trudging through this wasteland 9 months from now. It happened kind of during the tech boom. It certainly happened in 2008 2009 during that collapse, and now we're kind of there again. It feels a little different, and I think it feels a little different because the federal debt is 3 times what it was, or at least twice as much as it was in 2008 and 2009. So they had more wiggle room. Now it seems like, especially with the dollar's value collapsing, and with $30 trillion of outstanding debt, like I don't see a clear path for them to travel to get out of the corner that they painted themselves into. But I don't know. It wasn't obvious in 2008 and 2009 either, so they found a way to pull a rabbit out of their ass that time. So
And they get bailed out by the enormous productivity that we still have.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason they can steal from it.
and there's no other currency that's a better option that they can run to, which I guess that's the major fear of Bitcoin, is it's actually the good money that people would hoard as they abandon bad money, the US dollar.
And I can't say I know much about economics because,
Well, you
predicting
took
is
a couple
hard, but
semesters.
I took a couple semesters, read the wrong books. I'm very surprised that in a period of time where there's so many asset class bubbles, I don't understand why Bitcoin is as low as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so weird, right? You would think that there'd be an inverse relationship, but there is not. There's
And yeah,
a almost parallel relationship between what's happening with the stock market and what's happening with the larger crypto market, and I don't understand why that's the case.
I don't
Well,
either. But it makes me wonder if maybe it's because it's not a commodity.
hmm.
And it doesn't throw off cash flows like a stock does. It's just a weird, fictitiously created, scarce, quote unquote thing. Maybe that's why in times of super duper uncertainty, it just doesn't go up in value
Well,
as
value
when.
is subjective.
And there's that.
It's true.
Well, I'm guessing a lot of people are trying to get into dollars, and they need to. There's a lot with the interest rates going up they have to cover. So I feel a lot of people just sold off recently because they need the cash. But
Yeah, maybe it's just that.
Wasn't there the I don't know if it's capital gains tax, but there was like something about the government going into charging people when they cash out of their Bitcoin or crypto, right? I mean,
Yes.
didn't they put that into place?
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely get taxed for making gains on crypto.
yeah, well, and
Unless
they
you
want to tax you every time you convert as well.
Which is one of the reasons why those dollar tied cryptos have been so popular. It's because you're not really getting out of crypto. You're not cashing out really.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So, as far as the economy, we're screwed, is what you're saying, and the currency will be bicycles in the future. Is that what it is?
bullets
Yeah.
and those little bottles of vodka that you get out of the mini fridge. That and bullets. That's currency.
I remember I think it was like 2000 that there were, like people, when we went from 1999 to 2000, it was, I just remember seeing some news piece and they were talking about, oh yeah, bicycles are going to be the currency after, like the date because of the computers. You had to,
Oh right.
I forget
Yeah.
what was that called? I don't even know what it was
Y2K.
called.
Y2K.
Oh, Y2K. Yeah.
That's nonsense, Randy, because you wouldn't have air compressors to fill the tires on those bicycles. These things aren't well thought out at all.
Well, you know what?
Skateboards.
It was
Ooh, Travis is
segment
gonna hit it big.
it was a segment on preppers, so the preppers actually might be proving us right here in the end, right?
Right.
So okay, so the one other thing I did want to talk about is the Uvalde shooting
Oh yeah.
massacre. Where the scenario where the police stood outside and allowed these children to be shot in for over an hour, and the outrage that I felt was I I don't know, this in particular, uh, it really I felt it because just knowing that these people there's gonna be outrage and why did they do that, but the police, as the courts have consistently ruled, have no obligation to protect anyone. So
Yeah, but they
I
don't have an obligation to tackle parents and handcuff them and prevent them
and,
from
and
trying to rescue
that's
their own kids either.
Yeah,
I exactly. And so far, like in the like one of the videos, you can see somebody on the ground, but I don't think I've seen any official acknowledgement that they were preventing parents to go into, stopping parents to go into that school. But I mean, just think of this. It's just like it's a gun-free zone, and so the state or the government is responsible for protecting these kids, and they didn't do it. They just didn't
It's
do it.
it's that anarcho tyranny thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cops are there and they don't protect you from violence, from harms. but they do step in to prevent you from protecting yourself or saving your own kid, and they want to make it even worse and make it illegal for you to have a gun. So it's
Well,
the
and
absolute
it's
worst of all possible worlds.
and you're virtually compelled. You're almost forced to put your kid in that building. Right?
Right. It's a
You're,
public school.
you,
Jesus.
your kids are damn near prisoners being forced to go to this building. And then when someone goes there to massacre them, the police officers prevent you from going to this child prison and rescuing your kids. Like, I guess
Oh, and by the way, it's time to pay your taxes again. So
sure, right?
pony up.
For of course, because of our wonderful schools and police services. Because what would you do without child prisons and police officers?
Doesn't
Yeah,
this kind of thing
You just
just
need to give
have
them
to
more
wake
money,
people
guys.
up? Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
If you just throw more money at it, it will solve all the problems. That's the
Imagine how many
problem. They're
more
just spending
parents the
enough
police
money.
could tackle if they had more funding.
That's
don't
true.
you
One
think-
escaped, right? She got hogtied, but she got out and
Yeah.
saved her own kid.
They handcuffed her, and then like after some time they uncuffed her and to let her go, probably because they realized the optics are terrible, and she promptly got up and went into the building and collected her 2 kids and walked out with her 2 kids, and the police the entire time are cowering outside.
And
And
she heard shots going
yes,
off while she was in the school.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's
I couldn't imagine. I think I would have just chewed my arm off to get out of that handcuff. If
it happened in Texas. Like, I'm so ashamed of Texans that the
They
fact
should
that
have
this
shot some of those cops.
absolutely, I would love to see a jury trial for a
Yeah,
parent
I mean, I
walking
don't
up
want
to
to
one
see.
of those police, putting a bullet in their head, and going in and rescuing their kids. Like, that would be entirely justified homicide. Like, it's frustrating that there's no abolish the police mantra coming out of this episode. If ever it was deserved, it's right now. But instead, no, it's gun control.
Maybe you
And
guys know. I mean, the left wing media is all saying gun control and politicians, but I don't watch right wing anything. Are there right wing commentators saying things like, well, like this was a crime perpetuated on us by a monopolistic police organization, and maybe we had to do something about it? Are there any? Is there
I've
anybody
seen
waking up?
I've seen a little bit of that. Just the fact that that there is the video and it is in Texas. That maybe they should like revisit this as far as, okay, well, if they're not doing their job that they're paid to do, why are we paying these people? I saw that in like some of these right wing Twitter accounts that I follow.
but thank God, and like if ever there's a time where it's like I need to be able to protect myself
Mhm.
and my family, it's right now, immediately after an event where, like, what's the other side of that coin? You don't need a gun to protect yourself or your family. The police will do that for you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what? Like,
Yeah.
we have the best evidence in the history of the nation that, like, that ain't the fucking case, bro.
Yeah. I mean, and just, like not even weeks before they went over under this whole, like active school shootings training, and so
Yep.
you have
Yeah.
like
They
these
had
guys
training
with all their
on school shooting
on school
situations
shootings.
this year. Yes, right. So it's not, oh, if only they had better training. No, it's
Yeah.
not that.
It's just inexcusable. And you know what? I just get the sense that there's probably nobody's going to get fired or nobody's going to
Yeah.
get drummed out of the whatever. That's probably like what's one of the worst parts about this is that
Mhm.
that, and then like it looks like there's going to be some more gun control coming down the pike.
Yep.
And
That a fair number of milquetoast Republicans are on board with, and cool. Like, as the Libertarian Party, we should use this handful of Republicans. It's more than a handful. It's like 7 or 8 of them. But like,
Mhm.
cool. So every single one of you Republicans, I'm just going to refer to as Mitt Romney. You are all Mitt Romney to me, and I'm going to run run against you accordingly.
Yeah, they just
'Cause
held a vote the other day, right, in the House, and I think there was 10 Republicans joined the Democrats on the gun control
and now
legislation.
there's a deal that's being made between these centrist Republicans and centrist Democrats to actually get a bill passed in the Senate to pair with that House bill, and that's the real threat.
I wish I were a smart Twitter or meme guy like Michael Malice or our own Jeff Hurley. I'd like to make some sort of meme where, you don't need one gun to save your kid from a mass shooter. You need 5 guns. The first 4 to fight your way past the cops who are
Yeah.
literally blocking you from going into the school to save your fucking kid. I mean, what the hell are we dealing with here?
Well,
And we pay for this privilege?
We
to
should
be abused like this?
Here in Nevada, we should be especially attuned to the failure of police officers with the Route 91 shooting, where it took them, how long was it, 50 minutes to get into that hotel room? Like,
Yeah.
it took them forever. And the fact that the next day you have all these first responders, quote unquote, patting themselves on the back for this heroic job that they did. You failed. You failed. The fact that that guy was able to do that for that long, every one of you should be fired. And the fact that there's been zero accountability for that, like regardless of cover-ups and any sort of weird shenanigans that took place, just the facts on the ground of when the shooting started and when you got into that hotel room, everybody in that chain of command should be absolutely fired. I like, and here we have a second example over the course of 3 years of just abject failure of law
If we had
enforcement.
market forces at play, they probably would have been fired, because if there was a security service that was supposed to take care of that and didn't take care of that, everybody would withdraw their dollars from them right away. You know, so there would be accountability if it were market forces were in play.
But instead, because it's political forces, and
how does
instead,
anybody
what you're
with a
going
straight face say that, you know, you guys are just exaggerating, saying there's no mechanism by which the cops have to serve the interests of the public. I mean, we're allowed to vote. How can anyone with a straight face point to the voting system, as corrupt as it is, and think that's an accurate way for the citizens to get to have some control over who their cops are, who their political leaders are?
Even so. Okay, well, yeah, I get to vote, but I have to wait 2 years, so maybe there will be accountability 2 years from now, but...
Oh, and look at my choices. Those are honest choices.
Here's the consequences. Here's the consequences. The man who was ultimately responsible for the failure on the part of law enforcement in Las Vegas for the Route 91 shooting.
He's about to be governor.
Yes, right. He's failed his way to the governorship, the highest position in the state. Like, if ever there's a failure, a perfect illustration of the failure of the political system, it's that.
Well, let's get those talking points up to Brandon Davis.
Yes, it's something that, like, as soon as Lombardo has wins the primary, beat that drum every opportunity we get. What a failure. And he's going to fail Nevada just like he failed the Route 91 shooting.
Do you guys have anything else you guys want to talk about? I mean, I like the idea of I should have actually sent this out, but maybe come here with something that you want to talk about. But do you guys have anything else you want to talk about?
Let me see. I don't know.
I got one just really quick. Okay. Yeah. We talked about this before we started recording. 31 people got arrested in Idaho yesterday or today. Early indications would suggest that it is a Fed operation. What are the odds on that?
I mean, it fits the pattern.
Yes.
You calculate odds by looking at all the historical things that look like this, that have this characteristic. So what are the odds? I don't know, about 19 to 1 that it's primarily feds. How many of those, after 9/11, the FBI was patting itself on the back for stopping all those homegrown terrorist plots? Well, weren't those all like 100% of those prosecutions plots that the FBI created in the first place with some low IQ Muslim sounding gentleman?
Well, the shoe bomber, the shoe guy, he was definitely not on the higher end of the. I mean, you can get anybody really to do anything, right? I mean, if they're they don't have enough of their faculties.
Yeah, when I was young, the TV done told me that entrapment was a thing law enforcement couldn't do.
Yeah.
Turns out I've been lied to.
Yeah.
It is odd seeing, because I've seen, I think, a couple places now, people essentially cite those 31 arrests of evidence of, like, how very in danger, like especially gay people are, right? Because like they were arrested not too far from a pride parade, and I guess they're supposed
Oh,
to
it
be.
was a pride parade. That's
I
right.
haven't looked into this story all that much, but this is like my loose understanding. But like, first off, how many of these arrests are like really quickly just going to be thrown out and not actually like charges? Um, Also, like, it's very peculiar. Like, what on earth do you arrest 31 people for? I don't know of any event where 31 people get arrested for breaking the law. Like, you had downtowns get burnt to the ground. How many people were arrested for burning a police precinct to the ground? How many people were arrested in Portland for the weeks or months where you had an active assault on a federal building there? I'd be shocked that if over the course of 2 months there were 31 arrests. But these I don't know, these guys in khakis, I guess they did something that uh, made it so that they needed to be arrested. I have no idea what. Maybe they had something extremely malicious planned that they were all in on, and they're rightfully arrested, and our society is far better off without them. But this would be the first time in history, especially if you juxtaposed it with what happened with the militia in Michigan threatening to kidnap the Governor Whitmer there.
Yeah.
18 feds to 12 suckers.
Yeah.
That's a pretty,
Yeah.
what does that ratio tell you? Yeah, I don't know anything about the details of these 31 people, but it just looks like, conspiracy time. It looks like feds posing as what left-wingers think right-wingers are all about.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I know a bunch of right-leaning people that I don't know any of them that don't like gay people or would like go perform some criminal act against them or something. It just seems like something you might have seen in Jerry Falwell days or something.
Well, it's like those crimes that like somebody will put like I don't know, they'll put a swastika on some synagogue or something like that,
Right.
and it ends up being so a member of the synagogue or something
Sure.
like that. Or
Yeah, these hate crime hoaxes.
You mean
Yeah.
Juicy Smolier?
Yeah.
that or any of or and then there's like this whole weird thing of the FBI like misallocating resources, like, oh, there's somebody hung a garage like a noose in a garage, and they send the whole, I don't know, HRT team down there or something like that.
Sure. Every dollar allocated to the FBI is a misallocation of resources.
Yeah.
Abolish the FBI.
There's our chair. There he is.
I feel like that's a fairly safe thing. Like, when's the last time the FBI did anything like commendable? I think it was New Hampshire, the LP New Hampshire, that put out something. The people that did this, right, with a picture of Waco, are the people that want to like take your guns from you and tell you that you're a bad person. Like,
have they ever been anything else than J. Edgar Hoover's FBI?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think that's them at their best.
Well, them at their best was in Silence of the Lambs and every other fictional representation.
Sure. Yes. Right. No. How long has there been TV series that are running just strictly called FBI and it's pure government propaganda? Whether it's NCIS or all these shows that are every night people just sit in front of their TVs and are told, like, apparently those 12 years of government indoctrination wasn't enough. We need to keep on reprogramming you on a nightly basis. So please tune in to your locally prescribed government propaganda that tells you just how wonderful the government is, which is why you get, Law and Order, which runs for 20 years and almost always portrays police officers in the most noble light, righting wrongs, taking these bad guys off the street, when in reality, they're pathetic government thugs that are just trying to generate revenue. They don't give a crap about if your radio gets stolen out of your car.
At least in Law and Order, there usually is an actual victim in the story.
Sure.
Think about Elliot Ness and all that untouchable garbage. They're
Sure.
going out and shooting up the place to prevent what? A guy from having a beer or a martini?
Literally poisoning beer.
You're the good guys?
Literally literally poisoning alcohol that
Yeah.
resulted in the deaths of thousands.
Yeah.
We're saving you from yourselves, my lord.
Not heroes.
Why the hell isn't everyone an anarchist or at least a libertarian?
We got our work cut out for us, Charles.
It's that it goes back to what you said, Charles, the 12 years of education.
Right. So I guess ultimately, like, if we want to abolish the FBI, the first thing is to abolish government schools.
There you go.
And then,
after
that,
well, after that, like a lot comes rolling.
You have to eliminate or end the Fed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would go education, empire, Fed, everything else.
Once you take care of education, like, a lot of things would start to take care of themselves.
It's a linchpin for sure.
Like, they get away with so much of what they do. One of the things I like saying is that virtually every single person that participated in January 6th went to a government school.
Yeah.
Like, because, like, it kind of frustrates both sides of the conversation. Right? They're all because if you're on the left, like, everyone that was a participant in January 6th was just a moron, worst person ever. You're right. And they went to government schools. They're a product of government schools. So we need to do something about it.
That's great. I like it.
All right.
You created these people.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's
absolutely.
12 years. It goes back to the 12 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Anything, any doomsday predictions or anything else like that you guys want to talk about? Because nothing.
Doomsday.
Jesus, Randy, you're
like Mad Max compound. Like, where are we going to all rally when everything goes down? Or...
Because the free state of Nevada is leaving this the Union, and we're going to hole up where Mount Charleston.
Yeah, one way in, one way out. No doomsday predictions, but we do have some great stuff coming up here in the near future, especially in the Libertarian Party of Nevada. We've got weekly meetups that whether you're up north or whether you're down here in Clark County, like, come on out and participate. We have some great people. We have some annoying people, but we also have great people. Take some time.
Sitting right here, Charles.
Yeah.
Yeah, were we supposed to hear that?
But obviously, we've got a whole bunch of candidates that are running for office that could really use some support, including candidates that are going to be running head-to-head, which is going to be really interesting, and it's going to be fun supporting them. So if you're up north, definitely look up Reed Mitchell. Down here, Darby Burns. We've got a full slate that are running for statewide offices. Brandon Davis running for governor. We've got Neil Scott running for Senate. So lots of spectacular things all across the state that are happening right now. And I don't think the LP of Nevada has ever been in better position than it is right now to really make a positive impact on the state of Nevada's politics. And I'm looking forward to the upcoming legislative session, since we're going to have at least 2 representatives sitting in Carson City for that.
Hell yeah. So go to lpnevada.org and join and volunteer and give us piles of money so we can do great things and get some of these great people elected.
If you aren't a member already, definitely join, get on our mailing list. We've got a really active community that is eager to support one another, and just really knowledgeable, smart people in there, and us.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming back on again, and I look forward to doing this again soon. If there's nothing else, Adam, Jeff, no last words.
I think Charles took the words right out of my mouth. So,
all right. So
that's an app violation. I'm sorry.
I'm going to actually put something in a green screen in the background of your thing, Jeff.
All right, that's cool.
Maybe an American
Mars, maybe.
You should just cover his entire square, not just the green part, but all of it.
Just put the FBI logo back there. Swap it with the CIA, NSA.
Just says definitely not a Fed.
ATF. Yeah, not a Fed.
See a teddy bear with an FBI hat.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Until the next episode.
This has been the Battleborn podcast, brought to you by the Libertarian Party of Nevada. Check us out at our website, lpnevada.org, where you can learn more about us and about libertarianism, the greatest political philosophy known to man. At lpnevada.org, you can become a member, donate, volunteer, check out our upcoming events, or just sign up for our newsletter. Help us make the world a more free place, beginning right here in Nevada. That's lpnevada.org, the home of the Libertarian Party of Nevada.